New in town.
It's that obvious, huh?
I don't mean anything by it. It's just kind of a forgotten place. I love you, Mom.
My daughter was born special.
Mentally challenged adult.
She's screaming a lot today. I'm going to call the police.
Lucky for you, here I am.
You're not a real cop.
I'm taking the entry exam for the police force next week. I'm an ace at this time. License and registration, ma'am.
How's your brother doing?
Good. He doesn't get out much.
Happy murder.
He came back from the war, sick.
What are you gonna do?
I really wish you'd said we.
What are we gonna do?
Okay, let's go. We can't afford a medication.
I hate you! There is no reason to act this way.
We have to consider institutionalizing her.
I'll find a way to make it work.
You ever seen one of these before?
The Silver Star. They give it you for bravery.
And they forget all about you.
I don't want to die.
You have to help us!
There's nothing more humbling than killing.
Hello? Remember how much fun we all used to have when the kids were little? Will we ever do that again?
Mommy's home, Mommy's here.
Hi,
Hi, this is my daughter.
that's my family.
You have to have respect for anything to work.
Do you like rabbits?
Actually, I have a rabbit.
Such a nice round of applause. Theo, thank you so much for being here.
You so much for having me. This place is super cool.
Congratulations on this movie. I was telling you in the green room. I mean, I say congratulations, I think, to everybody who comes up on this stage because completing any kind of project, be it TV or movie,
Right.
is kind of a miracle in and of itself. But a movie like this,
Yeah.
congratulations. This is not an easy movie to get made. Can you talk about how you got involved in the process of getting it made? Because you're not only an actor in it, you are a producer.
I produced it, yeah. Basically, I've always been one of those people in life that, like, instead of complaining about something, I do something about it. And I used to go to movies every Monday. Like, that was kind of my thing. Like, whether I was shooting, I'd move the day, but I always went and would see a film. I was living in LA, I was doing Sons of Anarchy, and I found myself kind of not going to the movies as much as I used to, and because it was always something that I felt like I could wait for, and I would be like, oh, I'll just see it on this and I'll see it on that, because I wanted movies that like kind of made me feel something, whether it be good or bad. I just wanted to feel something. So instead of complaining that I wasn't getting the scripts like that the tides had turned a little, that movies were different, I said, I'm going to form a production company. And I think my stupidity, God bless you, I think my stupidity is kind of what got the movie made, because I read 100 scripts. They were all the same, somebody was becoming an iPhone and somebody was, it was all this stuff that was kind of going on.
There was a gun and a convict, and he was trying to get his life back together, but his friends were getting him back involved with the gang.
That kind of stuff, similar to guys on motorcycles. But it was just, regular, like stuff that I liked, but I just wanted something like throwback. And I read the script, and I was floored. Because I'm so interested in the family dynamic. I'm so interested in how families affect us every day, how our parents affect us, how the people who were brought into this life and our brothers and sisters, and sometimes the people we're supposed to be closest to, how necessarily we're not, but we're kind of supposed to be. I've just always been interested in family, and this was it. And I was like, okay, I have to get this movie made. So I met with the director, who's also the writer. It's based on his life. It used to be a play. And again, my stupidity, I was like, I'm going to make your movie. And they were like, for 10 years, people have been telling them they're going to make this movie.
How does a director react when it's been 10 years and you tell him, I'm going to make your movie? Like, what was he over the moon? Was he like, thank you so much? Or did he do like sure, let's see it?
Yeah, it was more that. It was like, right, we'll see. And he, was a fan of Sons. Excuse me, I think my drawers are hanging out here. It's no big deal. That's why she was sneezing. So I told him, and again, I said, no, I'm going to make it. Because I'm not one of those people, like when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Good and bad, like I do it. So I started raising the money, and right away. I just started raising money right away. I started calling people. I have 19 investors on the film. None of them have ever invested in a film before. And truly, they were investing in me in a way. And I started the process. I had no intention of acting in the film. I was coming on straight to start my company. And somewhere along the line, we had a miscommunication because he started talking to me about the character of Todd. And I was like, is he talking to me like a director, like a producer-director thing? Because I had never produced. I didn't realize he was talking to me as he wanted me to play this lead character. It's technically 2 leads, 3 leads, but it was one of those things, and I went, oh, okay. I was thinking someone totally different. I had actually called up a friend who was on my show at the time, the character Opie, Ryan Hurst. I was thinking about him for the role, and it just so happened, and we raised the money, and 2 years ago, actually today, we were still shooting the film in the worst snowstorm in Staten Island. The play was set in Rhode Island. I said the only way I'm going to get this movie made is if I do it in Staten Island, because that's where I'm from. I had been living in LA, but after Sandy hit, I decided to move back because I saw something in New York City and something that reminded me of my childhood, and I was about to start a family, and I knew that I wanted to do it here. I wanted my kid, who now is a son, he's 8 months yesterday, to be raised as a New Yorker. And it happened, and again, we got into Tribeca. We premiered at Tribeca. The reviews keep coming out. There were 2 more that just got released now. The reviews are incredible. Every one of them has been amazing. And it's just one of those. This is a really hard film. What I tell people is like you just got. It's not one that you're going to be like you're going to have lines around the audience, around the theater, and it's not like there's going to be millions of people tweeting about, and it's not like the stuff that's going on now, but it's something that sits with you. Yeah. And that's what I like.
Over the course of time, people will discover it and talk about it and rediscover it, and it'll be conversations about the struggle. And, there's so few movies that I feel like tackle blue-collar families. Every now and then Hollywood comes out with one. I would say The Fighter was probably the best one of recent years, where it was about a blue-collar family really struggling. And this film, it's not a Hollywood film, but it is about a blue-collar family. We rarely see those, and I think people are, for some reason, they don't know how interested they actually are in people who are sort of going up against economic forces, which is so interesting. Did you find that when you were trying to sell it, when you were trying to get financing, that people didn't really understand, or people weren't really sure about being sold on a movie about a sort of low-income family?
Well, I come from a working class town. I grew up in Staten Island. I always say there's 3 kinds of people in Staten Island. There's cops, criminals, and firemen. Like, that's kind of what it is.
And actors.
And apparently actors. And Paul Newman lived there for a minute. And apparently Christina Aguilera was born there, but she never tells anybody.
Paul Newman lived there? Wait, was he born there?
No, when he came to New York, he couldn't afford to live in Manhattan, so he was living right by the ferry in Staten Island.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, fun fact. And me and the Woo. The Woo still lives there. So I actually just did something for AOL with Ghostface. It was my first time picking up a mic and doing a song. So it was very.
With Ghostface?
Yeah.
Had you ever met the Woo before?
I had met Meth. I had met RZA. I think I met Ray once or twice. But Ghost, I could say this because it's AOL, does a thing called Act Like a Musician. And Ghostface had recommended that I do it with him, and apparently it's like for actors who have some type of musical ability. I have 0. And I came to find out that I'm actually not so bad on the mic. I sung.
So you freestyled?
I did. No, we sung Mighty Healthy. I had to learn his song off Supreme Clientele, and we did it.
That's incredible. Now I want to continue talking about Bad Hurt, but this is going to take a moment here. How have you met Meth? How had you met the Woo?
When I first moved out to LA, we moved out. It was me and 5 of my friends. We had no money. We drove out there. It took 11 days. We had a 74 Cadillac and like an 85 Honda Civic. Couldn't afford cell phones, so we had a walkie-talkie in each car. We were like bulls in a china shop when we went to LA. It was like, they were like, who are these guys? It was like Fight Club era, so everybody was wearing like yellow Adidas pants and, Hawaiian
frosted
shirts.
tips.
Yeah, it was just a very weird, and our crew is like, a Benetton ad of people. It's just this whole mix, and people just weren't used to us in LA. But at that time, a lot of people, New Yorkers were a rarity. People were kind of in LA. But when you did meet people who were from New York, it was kind of like you instantly became friends. And I had met Meth and Redman at this place, Dublin's, and it was like once we found out we were from Staten Island, and like I proved it because it was like still on my license. He was like, "Oh my God!" And then that was early on. I think at the time I was still waitering and busboying tables and stuff. And then Staten Island's one of those places where when you get recognition and people start to know who you are, everybody who's from there kind of somehow meets in one way or another. And so when Ghost asked for me to do this thing, I was just like,
Was it because he knew you were from Staten Island?
Yeah.
Was he looking for like a Staten Island guy?
Yeah, and he was a fan of Sons. And they actually just mentioned, on their last album, they mentioned Sons of Anarchy in one of their songs, and that was like all I needed forever. Yeah.
That's amazing. Going back to Bad Hurt, do you want to talk about developing this project? I mean, did you develop it past the script, or did you just stick with the first script that you got and went with it?
No, it had to be changed a bunch because obviously we were moving it from Rhode Island to Staten Island. When something's a play, they had a feature film screenplay written that was just incredible, and I wish we had the money to shoot it the way it was. But there's a lot of scenes that you can't shoot in an independent film. You know, we couldn't do the Staten Island ferry scene that we wanted to do. We had to cut a lot of things. We had to minimize some stuff that now looking back, you know, I wish expanded a little more on certain people's story. But we shot the film in 18 days. Technically 19 because we had to take a snow day. So we shot the film because it was the second worst snowstorm in New York City history 2 years ago. So when we shot it, again, I'm in almost every scene and producing, and not just producing, like my mom was cooking food for everyone. My friends were shoveling the sets. We had like my electrician who was building my house, plugging in all the electric in the morning. It truly was one of these like people say, oh, that's an independent film because it was made for like $40 million and a studio's, just releasing it. This was like truly an independent film. Like we had no money. We made it for nothing. We premiered at Tribeca and a company, a great company, bought it and distributed it. It was the ultimate independent film.
I'm curious what it feels like to sort of be a part of a project, produce a project where, as you said, your mother's cooking, friends are shoveling the driveway, people are helping out. And at the end of the day, you're not making a comedy that you're trying to sell to the studio. You're not making a commercial calling card, if you get my drift. I mean, the film could succeed on a mainstream level. It's an incredibly heartbreaking and beautiful story, but you're not making an action comedy or like a low budget, bungling thieves kind of movie. You're making a film with a lot of integrity, and that's about real people. At the end of the day, do the fruits of your labor feel even greater because of that?
Well, the one mistake I think we've always made, we somewhere made along the lines in history, is the mixture of art and commerce. It's two things that don't go together, but we've combined them on a very large level now. I'm lucky enough that I've been, a businessman and a hustler since I was 9 years old when I had my first paper route. I never relied on acting, producing, or anything to do with the arts as a way for me to generate like my income and the way I live. I'm lucky enough to have other stuff that I do. Thank God I've been extremely fortunate for the last, somewhat 16 years of doing this, and it's terrific. But when I was making this film, I wasn't thinking about the money. I was thinking about the message. I was thinking about, mainly because I've been to Iraq, Kuwait, every military base in the United States. I do a lot of
USO tours?
Yeah, I did USO tours. I do a lot of work for soldiers with PTSD, and I think that there's a lot of things with the veterans that we need to, from homelessness to the suicide rate. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't talk about, and I wanted to address that in this film. I have I'm an ambassador for another charity called The Very Special Place that a lot of the kids and adults are in this film, and they're developmentally disabled. And I thought that was something that, again, we see mothers and fathers with children with autism or developmental disabilities, and we see them at a charity event, or we see them at the store, and we're like, wow, that's, that must be hard. But we never see what it's like in their daily life. What do they deal with at home every day? And that, to me, going behind the door, was more interesting than anything I've ever done. Looking inside that life and how hard it is, but at the same time, where the film is so incredibly hopeful, is that the struggles that we think are so bad, the trials and tribulations, the things that we go through in our life, especially with our families, are ultimately the things that hold us together. That's what makes us a family. Because if not, you're just strangers. But when you get through those hard times, that's why you're considered family. That's why your closest friends you call your brothers, or because you've been through it. And I think you have to go through it to kind of be in it. And that was the reason for doing it.
Do you consider this film sort of inadvertently a political film? I mean, when you talk about PTSD and you talk about veterans programs, you end up talking about the VA. When you're telling the story of a low-income family dealing with a mentally handicapped daughter, you start talking about other kinds of programs and health benefits that go into taking care of a daughter like that. And we're in the middle of an election season, so essentially you start talking about economic policy and how those programs are paid for. Is that something that you think about when you think about this film?
You know what? There's so many things I never thought about when I was making it. The first thing I thought about was this is a tremendous story. As I'm starting to do a lot of this stuff, people have been asking me questions that because of the way I was raised, and maybe it's because of the 17 ethnic backgrounds I have and everything else, like I never think about certain things that people ask me when they're like, oh, what about the fact that the developmentally disabled couple is an interracial couple? I was like, I grew up in New York. I never thought about it. Like, I don't think about that.
Yeah, that's true. I got to be honest, I didn't think about that.
Right. I just got asked that in an interview, and I was like, who cares? What are you talking about? It's the first time, and it's like that. So I don't think about that stuff. To me, I have so many friends, that are, veterans and active military. To be honest, the people at A Very Special Place and other developmental disabilities and dealing with autism are some of the greatest people I've ever met. To be completely honest, much better than 99% of, I guess, what people would consider normal society, because they're a lot happier than most of the people I know. So I don't know that, I never looked at it like that, but I could see that it does touch on a lot of different points that are extremely relevant right now. But there are a lot of things people don't talk about.
Yeah. I think it just in regards to resources. You're talking about a low-income family who's dealing with a lack of resources in regards to their son and their daughter, who are both struggling with issues that in many ways the state could have a certain hand in, if need be.
The VA hospital, when she's calling that, and that's all real stuff that's happening. And again, it's based on the director's life. This is stuff that he went through, in a which is crazy to think about. But again, there's so many, what it is, and why I said it in 1999, why we picked that year of his whole family to be portrayed, is it was a very defining year in his life, but also the fact that it's very hard to make films now, because we've become, it's almost like every person would have to have their phone in their hand, to make a film like this that is so deeply impactful emotionally. A lot of us don't even go to these emotional places because we can escape to a phone. We can escape, to the internet, which maybe isn't, that's not a bad thing, but it's...
You seem upset. Play with this.
No, it's not a bad thing. I'm 3 steps under being a hacker. I'm extremely in it, and it's just to do something like this, to get on that phone, to be calling Veteran Affairs, to deal with the stuff, to go to these, homes and try to get them. That doesn't happen like that anymore. It's not as personal. And I needed that personal. And then also for New York changed. New York in itself changed after 1999. So this was a whole different place before that. And again, Staten Island, where I'm from, it's the forgotten borough for a reason. It is truly like Pluto to New York City. I mean, there are
I have never been.
Most people haven't. A lot of people, I've ridden on the ferry, but I've never been to Staten Island. And that was another important thing to me, because after Sandy, we were rebuilding houses in Staten Island because it destroyed my neighborhood, and we were doing all these different events, and I knew that I wanted to bring jobs back there, and I wanted to get the community excited again. So I'm really excited for them for this.
Well, how about bringing a show to Staten Island? Have you put a show in development? With the production company?
Yeah, I have one in development right now that we've been going back and forth on, and truly, TV has become the new home to independent film. So, it's kind of a show that could have originally, it was conceptualized as an independent film, and then it ultimately now has morphed into kind of a TV series mode. So we'll see. Right now, producing wise, I just want to see what happens with this, and I have a bunch of these other projects that I'm looking at, but I'm kind of like, we'll see.
So Sons has been done for a little while now.
Sure, yeah.
Do you miss Kurt?
I always miss Kurt. I talk to him all the time.
Do you talk to Kurt Sutter all the time? What is it like how does Kurt Sutter answer the phone? He just seems like he would answer the phone by cursing you out immediately.
Calling you a C-U-N-T. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's completely different than who he is out there. Kurt is a very shy, kid from New Jersey who's just extremely creative.
Is it a persona that he's put on as a kind of defense mechanism for being out there and having to do press and stuff like that? 100%.
I think a lot of people do. I think that a lot of times, but I think that Kurt is very smart, and I think things like Sons are such a rarity in this business. When you could literally say Sons and most people know what you're talking about, that's a rarity. It's like when you say Brad and everybody's like Pitt. It's like, the fact that you can say that.
Brad, sorry.
Yeah, but it's like, or that Brad, yes. But it's like that's kind of that thing. And Sons, especially in the history of television, I feel, and I'm not saying it because I'm a huge fan of the show. Besides being on it, it was groundbreaking in a way. It was kind of coming off the heels of The Sopranos and The Shield and a lot of shows that I love, The Wire, and really took it to a wide stream. Where 15 million people are watching it a week. That's incredible. So that was it afforded me the right to do all these other things that are coming up this year, and I will always have, not just to Kurt, because I started off as literally in the original pilot I had hair, there was no Clay, there was no Tig, I had one line, I had a different character name, and it was all because of Kurt. I started as a guest star, and then Juice became Juice, and I couldn't have asked for a better character ever in 7 years.
How did he tell you that Juice was going to become Juice? Was it something that just developed over the course of a season, or did he come to you and say, "Hey, I like what you're doing. I'm gonna make you a bigger part in the show"?
We became super friendly season 3, where we just found out we had a lot more in common and it's crazy. Without him knowing that much about me, season 4 is when Juice kind of took off, and it was when they found out about his father, and without just in Kurt getting to know me and know each other, there were certain things that I didn't really share with anyone, but I never really knew my father tremendously. So I was like, how did he know this? Did he because no one knows this. So it was just he knew, and it was right from there where I always feel like Kurt and a lot of other showrunners and people in Hollywood, it's like they give you, it's almost like a tryout. Here's a couple of scenes, let's see what happens, let's see how people react, and let's see how you do. And people just love that character. And it just blew up from there.
And you're on another show that's coming up soon, Luke Cage on Netflix, right? This sort of sequel or partner to Jessica Jones.
Yeah, and Daredevil.
Talk about that show. Are you guys done shooting it?
I can't say anything.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's Marvel. I'm sorry.
I can't say anything.
I just remembered.
The only thing I will say is it's the most excited I've ever been for a project I've done.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you say why?
It's completely different. It's like a whole new level of. It's incredible what they're doing at Netflix and Marvel. It's a whole different ballgame now, and I'm a huge fan of Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Huge comic book fan in general. They got my buddy John playing the Punisher on Daredevil, and I'm really excited to see that. And just the worlds, what I've always loved about this morphing of comic books into movies was how you base it in reality, and the superhero thing is almost kind of like an afterthought. And I think Nolan did that really well with the Batmans, where with Heath Ledger's Joker, it wouldn't be unbelievable in your mind if he walked in, because he wasn't so unbelievable. He was just this guy in this raggy suit who was completely insane. And I think that's why we fell for that movie, hook, line, and sinker, because it was almost sort of real in a way. And I think that Netflix and Marvel have taken that to an entirely new level, because you watch Daredevil and Jessica Jones and you're watching it like you're watching The Wire, or you're like watching The Sopranos, or you're watching it like you're watching just a regular hour-long drama that you're completely into. And
you're watching a story unfold rather than buildings get demolished.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Rather than the whole crawling up a building or something.
Yeah.
I think we have some time for questions from the audience. Who has a question?
Hi, Theo.
Hi.
So my sister Carly is watching live right now. Mm-hmm. So in order for me not to be a dead girl walking, she made sure that I ask a question on her behalf.
Okay.
And she's wondering, if you could go back to the character Juice, what is one thing you would change about him?
It could either be 1,000 things or nothing. I'm going to stick with nothing because I think that every single thing that happened, all the things that went along with that character was exactly the way it was supposed to be. It was, I do truly feel like never in, and I'm not saying it because I played it, because I didn't write it, I just played it. I've never seen a character on television go through so many different, ways and feelings and formations. Like he became like almost a different character every season. And I thought that was such an amazing exercise as an actor, but just also really cool to do. So, nothing. Now you're alive.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi.
My question is, what was your favorite moment on Sons? Like, what was the scene or?
Definitely personally as an actor, the scene with Charlie and I, when I admit everything about what happened with his wife. As a fan, my favorite scene / episode / is the season 3 finale with Opie and Stahl, and like how they just cleaned everything up and like kind of took everybody out in all this like kind of duping the whole thing. Like you just didn't see it coming. I like being surprised like that.
Next question.
Hi, I was wondering how you think growing up in New York affects the roles you choose.
Well, that's a great question.
It affects everything. Yeah, I said yesterday on a different show. No offense.
What the?
I know, Rick. I'm sorry. I said that ideas are created in LA and they're executed in New York. I think that this is a town of hustle. No matter how many corporate sponsors you put around it, how many different restaurants pop up, it's still New York. It's still New York. It's still got this like feel to it, this hustle mentality that we all have to do, because everybody here, everybody in this town, we pay way too much for everything. We pay way too much for where we live. There's too much traffic. There's too much this, but we don't want to be anywhere else. And New York has got this like thing in you, that like this motor that keeps going. And I've been lucky to be in most of the world, and I've never seen it anywhere else. And I think that that's why this is like the capital of the world. So New York has taught me how to work. It's taught me like my work ethic. It's taught me like how to be and how to take on projects in every way.
New York is the only city that when someone leaves and they tell you that they're leaving, you get kind of like, you think you can leave, huh? Yeah. You get really mad that they get to do it.
Yeah, and ultimately, like me, I was gone for, I split time a lot, but I was gone for like 15 years.
But you're only allowed to go to LA. Like, you're not allowed to go to any other city.
That's right.
You're LA? Okay, fine.
I think Austin you can go to now. I think that's.
No, please, you're taking the easy chair. You're like, get out of here. You're not.
Say that. My wife's from Austin. I'm going to say that. She's from Houston, but she lived in Austin.
Theo, Bad Hurt. How can people see it?
Yeah, so February 12th, which is, I don't even know what day it is. That Friday?
This Friday, I think.
This Friday. It's coming out all over, all the major cities. If we do well, we'll expand to more theaters, but easier than that now, for people like me and a lot of other people. iTunes, Hulu, Verizon Fios, Netflix, you could probably see it on the person next to you if you touch their shoulder. It's like everywhere you could see it. It's like a hologram. It just shoots out. But no, you could see it everywhere. It's a story of hope. And I think most of us are alive because somewhere along the line we had a family, and we still do. And whether you're close with them or not close with them, I think it's something that just kind of hits you in a certain part of your heart. So I encourage everybody, just for the lessons and the stories in it, to just take a gander.
Well, Theo, congratulations again on the movie. Thank you so much for being here, man. Pleasure talking to you.